Today on Locked On Phoenix Suns, it's been 24 hours, which means throw away everything you thought 24 hours ago about the Kevin Durant trade, and we'll bring you the latest. Plus, what could be holding it up with each team? Players, picks, money. We'll go through team by team and the latest non-KD rumors around the Phoenix Suns. Let's go.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Phoenix Suns. I'm Brendon, Kleen, a staff writer at Awful Announcing and a credentialed Suns media member. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen here on this Tuesday. Don't forget, Locked On Suns, free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Just click that follow or subscribe button. Do what thousands of other Suns fans have already done. Become an everydayer. Get locked on to the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. Today's episode brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. More from FanDuel later on in the show. We've got a lot of offseason talk, both KD and non-KD related to get to. Joining me, as always, to break it down from the Wild West Valley, my fellow Suns credentialed media member. How are we feeling? Ben Garcia.
Good, man. Well rested. You know, you covered for me yesterday, things going on in each other's lives, and you're just like, you know what? I'll take the reins. I appreciate that. You know, I did think for a second, because I told you, I was like, if Kevin Durant gets traded, I'll figure out a way to get on. We'll figure it out. We'll do a show. I'll be honest with you. I thought when that Shams Charania notification hit yesterday and I saw like breaking, I was like, oh, here it is. Throw away everything we thought we were going to do today. It ended up being Desmond Bane. So at least he had something to talk about.
The NBA offseason always delivers, and it's delivering as it relates to the Suns right now. So let's get to it. The latest dueling reporting right now, Ben, where we are seeing almost nothing, I would say, about San Antonio and Houston, although we will get to that a little bit, I think, in the next segment. But the teams you're hearing the most about related to Durant are Miami and Minnesota. And shortly before we logged on today, there was a report from Shams Charania on SportsCenter where he said that Kevin Durant has no desire to be in Minnesota with the Timberwolves, despite a lot of noise about them being hot on his pursuit. And then Miami, right before we recorded, John Gambadoro here on the radio locally says he doesn't think it's likely to be Miami, at least as things are looking right now. So, like, there's legit a version of this podcast we could log on and do right now, Ben, where we go, I think KD's just going to stay in Phoenix, because if you look in all the different directions and read and believe every single thing that's out there, you'd think, well, there's no deal for him. He doesn't want to go anywhere, and it's over. But obviously that's not going to happen. So where are you at right now as far as these two teams being the front runners and what might be kind of coming next here?
10 minutes ago, like before we did the show, I would have agreed with you. I would have said, oh yeah, it's down to Minnesota or Miami. But then Gambo's reporting comes out and you're like, okay, so is it San Antonio and Houston? No one, like, not any reporter, and this isn't going after any reporter. I think, in my opinion, whether it's Shams, whether it's Gambo, whether it's Scotto from Hoops Hype or whatever, Brett Siegel from whatever, Clutch Points. Yep. It's like no one has reported anything tangible in the last, I would say, 4 days. Over the Kevin Durant trade,
tangible?
Like Shams Charania, like nothing new, I guess I should say. Like Shams Charania has put out something that's like Kevin Durant's preferred destination locations, and it's like, okay, we knew that 3 days ago. Everyone, I feel like, is regurgitating the same information just kind of differently every day in hopes that people buy it as new information. So I don't know, man. I don't know if it is down to Minnesota in the Heat, because it feels like that's Kevin Durant's party trying to move him or divert him away from Minnesota. And then the Heat thing being unlikely, I just don't get it, because the Heat one seems pretty easy to do, but just probably unwilling to put Ware in the conversation. So yeah, my head's spinning, man.
I want to go through kind of what the holdup will be in the next segment on each team. But the reason that I think, at least right now, where it feels like these two teams might be the front runners is one thing I can say for sure, and you're right, there is like a point in time where you kind of have to separate yourself from all of the 24/7 news cycle of it. and just think what's true, right? So what I think is true is that those two teams are are likely to be the most determined to do the deal, right? Because Minnesota was the closest to a championship the past 2 seasons out of any team we're talking about. Miami, maybe some of their fans would say, hey, we should just probably be rebuilding. I mean, that's credible. I kind of understand that, but they're not doing that. They have Tyler Hero, who's a legitimate scorer in the NBA in his prime, and Bam Adebayo, who is a two-way, all-NBA caliber guy, also in his prime, and some depth of young players to go ahead and do something. And they just had the Jimmy Butler thing completely fall apart on them last season and embarrass themselves for months on end. So they want to, get the wheels turning quickly again and put that into the distance. So I think that those teams versus the Spurs, the Rockets, they're kind of roughly in the same spot where they have many years ahead of them where they can expect to be in the mix. You would probably say the same about Toronto. I don't know how urgently they really want to do something unless they just want to make a splash to make a splash. And then maybe the Clippers are more in the Minnesota camp, but not quite as desperate because they just got ousted in the first round. Are they really close? Are they really a KD away? So that's why I say Minnesota and Miami. But I thought that this tweet from this Heat fan account called Heat Culture, I don't know who they are, but it was a good way of putting it. He said, Shams, Miami has been talking to the Suns. Kevin Durant doesn't want to play in Minnesota. Gambo, Heat trade is unlikely, hyping up the T-Wolves package. You guys see what's going on here, right? And so yesterday, Ben, when I logged on and did the show, I said, I think the fact where you're seeing Miami be the one team that nobody is pouring cold water on in terms of the pursuit, and then the Suns saying, hey, we could just trade him wherever, that tells me a Miami deal is pretty close. That tells me that there is a Miami deal that is probably getting closer, but the Suns want more. So then the Suns go out and leak, we could trade him to Saskatchewan. We'll trade him to the Edmonton Oilers for all we care, right? It doesn't, whatever. We'll do whatever we need to do to get the best deal. And then same thing happened today. Minnesota. I take the sudden report from Shams of he doesn't want to be in Minnesota. Well, the hell are we talking about Minnesota for? Where did that even come from to say he doesn't want to be there? Well, he doesn't probably want to be with the expansion Las Vegas whatevers in a few years either, but we're not talking about that. So why are we talking about Minnesota? Well, that would probably tell me that a Minnesota deal, there was some momentum to it. KD's camp caught wind, and for one reason or another, whether that's the extension coming up or whatever, KD's camp wanted to say, hey, hold on. We're not interested in going there. Let's not get that deal done. So that's where my mind is coming from, that those two teams are the ones that appear to be closest. Now, again, that could change any minute, but that's where I'm at right now.
It still feels like to me that all roads potentially might lead back to San Antonio and the Houston Rockets because we haven't heard anything of them right now. And because, listen, we all have favorite reporters. We all have guys that we lean on. I think Gambo's been spot on with a lot of it. Doesn't mean he can't be played either. So I think what you're kind of saying is everyone is leaking out whatever they want into the public, hoping that it gives them more leverage a different way. Man, I know you're saying that potentially maybe a Miami deal is close and that maybe a couple of days ago a Minnesota deal was close. But Gamble's also saying there's potentially better deals out there than Miami. So again, maybe he's getting played. I don't see right now that anything is close, in my opinion. And I've seen a couple people report out like, oh, it's getting close. And then Shams will tweet out, it's actually not close at all. Windhorst will tweet out, it's not really close at all. I don't see a definitive leader right now. You're going to
I don't see a leader, but I would say the opposite. I think the fact that we're hearing so much so consistently tells me that the talks are pretty hot. I'm not saying which team. I know which team it's going to be. We'll talk in a second about what players might be going back and forth that could be the reason that teams are up and down in the pecking order, so to speak. But I'm I don't think it's far away, because otherwise we'd be hearing nothing. If it was far away, we wouldn't know anything, and there'd be nothing out there like there was for most of May, right? In May, it wasn't close. Now it's close.
Yeah, here's my thought process, man. As of this morning, as of yesterday, right? And then all the way into this morning, I'm thinking this team is going to get 3 first-round picks. I'm being a little facetious, but 2 first-round picks, Ware, Wiggins, maybe 3 first-round picks in the Heat. It seems like the Suns are going to fleece whoever it is they trade with, or are going to be seen as or perceived as a really high package. And right now, I'm like, well, if the Heat are unlikely, it's sounding like they're not adding Ware to that equation, because I don't know what else would hold it up except for 3 first-round picks. And the Minnesota Timberwolves, if KD doesn't want to go there, we'll get to there in a second about if that's really the right thing to do to send someone there if they don't want to be there. Maybe you're right. Maybe something is close, but it feels like last week, right? This is why the betting. Well, this is why the betting odds are so stupid. So when people keep on tweeting out the betting odds, it doesn't mean anything. We've seen the Spurs go to the top. We've seen the Heat go to the top. We see the Timberwolves go to the top. None of it means anything. And to me, it seems like no one actually knows what's happening. So when I texted you, I was like, who do you think right now KBD will end up with? You said a team. And I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. And you're like, but who actually knows? And then immediately after, you get the Gamblers reporting. I'm like, yep, it's probably not the Heat. And I don't see a definitive leader right now. But again, bring it all back together. I would say as of right now, it's probably Miami or Minnesota, with the Rockets and the Spurs being weirdly quiet, just strangely quiet.
But they're not quiet. The Rockets and the Spurs, we've heard specific things that would indicate why, with reasoning, they're not in the pursuit anymore. So you say quiet, it's not like we've heard nothing. We've heard that San Antonio is being pretty judicious with its offers, which would signal that there's a limit to how aggressive they're going to be. And we've heard with Houston the same, but especially related to, I would say, you keep hearing this rift between their coach and their front office. That's been the main substantive, detailed reporting that we've gotten about Houston is Ime Udoka, because he had a relationship with Durant dating back to Brooklyn, would really like to try this, whereas the GM, less so. But their GM is a former guy who was like the general counsel lawyer of the team. It's a little bit of an interesting setup over there where there's an open question as to maybe it is a situation where the coach has a little more sway than some other places. So I think because I'm seeing stuff that is specific and detailed about why those teams may not be aggressive right now, that's why I'm saying let's take them down a peg.
Yeah, maybe I say that they're being a little quiet because the packages that we've heard very minimally leaked, especially from the Spurs side, are so, I think, embarrassing offers. And since we haven't heard anything since then, we've seen some maybe correct, maybe not reporting of them not even wanting to include Jeremy Sohan. It's those are such embarrassing offers. It sounds like to me they're not big players at all, or they're lurking, waiting for the Suns to get a better offer.
I thought you were saying suspiciously quiet, like they could come out of nowhere and get him.
No, their offers have sucked so much.
Yeah, that's not suspicious then. I'm just thinking they're not going to get him, right? Yeah, I mean, I think we're on the same page then.
Yeah. I mean,
as of right now, it doesn't feel like they're
which
one
can
of
change.
the teams consistently working the phones. And that's why we do a daily
in
podcast.
10 minutes.
Let's get to what could be holding up the trade, team by team. What's the negotiating piece that's back and forth? We got some intel on that today. We'll break it down next. First, today's show brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA Finals are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and even live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. The WNBA is off on Monday night, so I'm going to hammer the same suggestion that I did on Monday's show. Indiana Fever hosting the Connecticut Sun, fresh off of Caitlin Clark's 32-point return from the quad injury. They're minus 3,000 Tuesday night. So go to FanDuel.com. It's the perfect time to sign up. Place your first $5 bet. I would suggest the Fever if you want to get $200 in bonus bets, and if it wins, that's exactly what will happen. $200 in bonus bets straight to your account. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Ben. So Mike Scotto, who you mentioned a moment ago, had some good intel today on a lot of things. We'll get to some of his stuff in terms of the big man market to close the show. But he had a piece where he basically broke down the entire state of affairs with regards to the Suns and the Kevin Durant sweepstakes. So I think we could just go team by team and kind of say, what do we think is the thing that's standing in the way of getting a deal done? All right, so let's start with the two teams that you and I both were downgrading in that last segment because they were at the top of the pack, and now all of a sudden they are a little lower. Why do you think that is? Let's start with Houston.
I think Houston sees the Suns picks as so valuable that there's no world where they want to get rid of those things. They have 2 plus or minus 1. That other one is got a little conditions on it before it can be super valuable. But also the Rockets, we've talked about this a billion times. It's really tough to get a 1-for-1 swap with those two teams, which means getting another team involved without gutting your roster for Kevin Durant. Yes, would you and I take Eason, Jabari Smith, like the 10th overall pick, and like just that? In hindsight, sure. But I don't think it's obviously not the way you can do business with the way the CBA goes. You got to make salaries match. And when you're adding the players that the Suns want combined with Dylan Brooks, then the Rockets are just getting their team for 36-year-old Kevin Durant. So I get why that makes it tough. And then with the Spurs, I don't think
it's going to be, no, let's just start with Houston.
You want to go down? Okay, go for it. Go for it.
I think with the Rockets, it's not about, I don't think Dylan Brooks is on the table. I think that what it is it's Jalen Green. And I think what is probably most likely standing in the way, I think the picks are a big hinge point. I agree with you. It's kind of this weird, not to be too nerdy, but everybody knows about Schrodinger's cat, where is it alive or is it dead until you open the box and find out. It's is the Suns pick going to be good or bad? It's going to be better if the Suns get it back because then they'll be more willing to be in the lottery those seasons. If the Suns cannot get those picks and Houston keeps them, I actually think that they go down in value because then the Suns know, okay, we don't have those picks, so we got to stay good. We can't bottom out. We can't tank. So it's a weird thing where they're uniquely valuable to the Suns for exactly a trade like this. I don't expect Devin Booker to be available in the next year or so, but maybe after that, maybe that's what they're holding him on to. The Green part of it, though, I think is my actual answer, which is in Mike Scotto's piece. Phoenix has done background on Green to gauge his value around the league in case Green is acquired, and it's worthwhile to then flip him again via trade. That's what I think is holding up the Houston trade, is Jalen Green going to a third team. Who wants him? How much can you get? What are the options there? That's my answer. What about San Antonio for you?
Yeah, San Antonio, I think it's pretty simple. I think the Suns are asking for too much. I think they're asking for Castle or the 2 pick. This is me just assuming, because I just don't get if it's Jeremy Sohan, Vassell, the first round pick, maybe they get the Suns get another pick. I still don't think that, and Harrison Barnes, I don't think that is a large price to ask for Kevin Durant, which leads me to believe the Suns are pushing for much more. Stephon Castle or the number 2 pick. And
it has to be Castle, just saying, right? The number 2 pick is ridiculous. They're not getting the number 2. If the Suns are asking for that, I don't even blame the Spurs for saying, get off my damn phone, you're wasting my
time. You and I don't agree there because we know what Castle is.
I thought you backed off on this. I convinced you that the 2 pick is absurd to get back for Kevin Durant.
No. To be fair, I think that they're both absurd to get back for Kevin Durant.
Okay, sure. I think the 2 pick is more valuable than Castle, so that's why I'm saying you could ask for Castle. But I wouldn't give it up if I'm the Spurs.
I value both absurdly high. I think they're both absurdly high.
And the Spurs do too, clearly.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot for it to asking for another first round pick down the line. Sure, but I think the Suns are in the wrong in that one.
Yeah, and I just think there's been some noise about his Sohan a hinge piece, and I don't even know if that was from a real person, to be honest with you.
Sure.
I don't remember where I saw that. I just think if the Suns were okay with Barnes, Sohan, Vassell, and 14, I think that KD would be a Spur right now. So I think that the Suns are probably asking for more. And maybe that's the fallback offer that they're going to rest on if it comes down to it. Because I don't think any of those things would be untouchable from San Antonio's standpoint. And again, maybe even within that, Vassell might be similar to Green, a guy that they would want to swing over to a third team as well. Let's get to Minnesota. So this one is, you talk about tangible and new reporting, something that I think has been reiterated in multiple places, I want to say, by Mark Stein, as well as in this piece at Hoops Hype that we're referencing here, is that Jaden McDaniels is off limits. That has been reported multiple spots now, and I tend to believe that it's true. So, especially because if you think like Minnesota may have to lose Nickeil Alexander-Walker this summer, regardless of what happens with Kevin Durant, and you lose Jaden McDaniels, suddenly your strength of your perimeter defense is just evaporated, and you're a whole different type of team now. So I think that's true. So I don't think that that's even like where the trade is maybe breaking down. Obviously, the big thing is money. That's the clear one. But where do you think it is with Minnesota? Is it just the aprons, or do you think that there's an asset, a piece that is being bickered over right now?
No, I think there's a third factor in it now, which is the Kevin Durant aspect. The fact that he doesn't want to go there, which I did find kind of interesting that he wasn't going to do that. But if you're not getting McDaniels back, who are you getting back? Are you getting back Rob Dillingham and a first and then Gobert?
You're probably looking at Gobert, DiVincenzo, 17 and 31.
And not even Dillingham? Yeah, man, that's not good enough. That's not a good enough. Because I look at those two guys.
Gobert's a really good player. I know that it doesn't make sense for where the Suns are in terms of their trajectory as a team. They're trying to reset, but that value-wise, that's not crazy, but maybe that just speaks to there might not be a fit between these two particular teams.
Yes, agreed. And just really quickly, I don't think Gobert sucks. It's just let's say he's awesome. The Suns are in a place right now to go win a championship, so who cares? And so you're doing them a favor by absorbing his contract. This is the question I wanted to ask you, man, is because you mentioned this a second ago. The Suns are telling the Heat in the last segment, well, we don't really care. We'll send the guy to friggin' Lithuania. We'll send him to Canada. We'll send him anywhere. Do you think it's good business? Because there's a argument of this. I saw Charles Barkley talk about this on Bickley and Murata the other day. It's like, send Kevin Durant to where the best offer is. I think there's a fine line between sending him for the best offer and sending him to a team he really doesn't want to go to, because I think, especially with a guy Matt Ishbia who's trying to earn some goodwill back around the league and not be so annoying, is if people around the league, players in the league, know that you won't send them to the destination that they want to go to, or at least help them, that those players might not want to come here. Where are you really quickly when it comes to Miami, that he would want to go to Minnesota, and sending him to Minnesota to go freeze his ass off for 7 months?
Well, let's just start by saying it didn't seem to really hurt Portland that bad sending Dame somewhere else, right? I mean, we haven't talked about that at all. No one's saying the Portland has the black mark of death on them. So I don't know how much it really sticks. So I understand somebody like Barkley making a point like that. However, I just don't understand the logic. It really falls apart to me, because I don't see a world in which you would ever get the best offer from a team who is only using and viewing KD as a rental. So I don't even understand what I heard that segment too, or I saw the comments, the clips, whatever, of Barkley saying that. Charles Barkley's not exactly a cap guru. I don't understand what he even meant.
For sure. Well, I think it's just...
Tell me what the team would be that would offer the best package, better than anything we've talked about with the places he would extend, if they are a team where he would not extend. What does that even look like?
I didn't even think about that until before the show when you opened my eyes. It's like, why would a team give you their best offer if they know he doesn't want to be here? It's a really good point.
That's why players leak that stuff. It's not just to give us content. It's because they want the other competing offers, the other teams pursuing them, to say, oh, crap, well, if he's not going to sign here, our offer goes down. That makes it less enticing to the team, and then the player gets to go where he wants to go. That's why they do that. So
I guess before we go over to Miami really quickly, I just would say, do you think Minnesota then wants him because they can get off on his contract? It sounds like they don't have to give him anything,
I think Minnesota's calling his bluff. I think he would extend there. If they offered the full extension to him when they got him, is he going to not sign it?
I agree with you. I think
sign it.
I put this out the other day too. Kevin Durant is 37. Plus, This is a guy that practices his jumper. I think someone said this the other day, like in the club. Like this dude is dedicated to basketball. He's not going to sit out. I would 100% agree with you that Kevin Durant will sign a contract wherever he goes, and that it is a little bit of leverage, but it is
he's not a free
thought.
agent. He wouldn't sit out. He's under contract next season.
He wouldn't make it difficult. The dude is going to play basketball. That's my point.
Yeah.
This isn't a Jay Crowder situation where he's okay with not playing basketball. The dude is in love with it. And he's going to sign a contract wherever he goes. He's not young enough anymore to where he's going to actively push away that money. This might be his last payday. Like it might be. So I would agree with you. It's just an interesting thought.
Toronto would be the one team that we've talked about where I could actually see him potentially not signing an extension. But everything else, they're all good teams. They're all decent markets, places he either has a connection to or are big cities and prominent places in the NBA map. I just have a hard time. Yeah. So the Minnesota thing, to me, it's like maybe they were offering something short of the max because they obviously just got rid of Towns. They don't want to go back into purgatory, cap-wise. They have this Randall thing looming over them. Maybe they were just saying, hey, we'll give you 2 years, $80 million. And he's saying, no, nothing short of 122, my max. That could be what it is. So, yeah, but what Barkley was saying, it's like those things don't go together. You're not going to get the best offer from a team that's not going to extend him because then they're not going to offer as much. It's a good point, man.
It's a good point.
All right, let's get to the big man market. Gotcha. Oh, well, let's go to Miami. Let's round it out with that one. Because I think it's Kel'El Ware.
Yeah, it's that's what I was just gonna say. I was like, just really quick. It's Kel'El Ware. It's Kel'El Ware. They don't want to give him up. They want to give the Suns Wiggins and who's the guy that's Terry Rozier, Duncan Robinson, and a first-round pick. Like they want to give them,
or even just their other young guys who aren't Ware, like Jaime or Jovic.
Yeah, I'm not interested in either of those guys. It's
I'd love
Ware.
to have him in addition to Ware, but yeah.
Sure. But if like another thing too, if the Suns can get Ware, but they don't get Wiggins, I don't care. I'll take the Rozier contract on. If I can get Ware,
we've seen in this same piece that Wiggins and Norm Powell are two other guys that other teams have kind of heard the Suns are saying, could we flip them? Could we flip them? So everybody who's married to the Wiggins side of it, I understand he was the second best player basically on a championship team 3 years ago, but the Suns are not valuing him as a key part of that trade.
It's Ware. It's if you can get Ware, and I don't care what else comes along with it, but I do need a pick or two with him. You do the deal, and I think that's why that report came out from Miami or from Gambo today, because they're not willing to include Ware, which by the way is just ridiculous. You have a core of Bam, Hero, and I would agree with you. The Heat in any other year probably need to start doing the rebuilding thing at least for a second. They'll figure it out very quickly. They're a smart organization, but if you put Kevin Durant on that team, they could win the East. I don't know if they can win the championship, but they could win the East. The Pacers just won the East. Pacers are a good team, but still, like, it's just a small price to pay to be really relevant, but whatever.
And it is crazy. It would be a little bit silly. I don't know how many picks they'll get. I think Ware might be the main, like, young piece value coming back, but it sounds crazy to trade a promising rookie for a 37-year-old, but you're ready. You are sort of ready to win now. So Miami has to look themselves in the mirror and say, are we willing to miss out on another superstar? Donovan Mitchell, KD the first time, Dame. They've swung and missed multiple times
Beal.
because they've been willing to go all the way in. Yeah, potentially Beal if he would have gone there. So I just think like they got to say, are we finally really being serious about this? And if they are, then I think Ware comes across and maybe that deal gets done. Let's switch over to the big man market. It could be related to a Kevin Durant deal, but it could also be something separate. Two names that popped up on Monday that the Suns might be interested in pursuing. Next. All right, Ben, let's close it out with some big man talk. So this is courtesy of, who did this come from? I believe Jake Fisher. He named two options that the Suns have poked around on as far as big men that are on other teams right now that they might be able to get via trade. Kristaps Porzingis from the Boston Celtics ahead of an expected fire sale by Boston, and Miles Turner, who has had a down finals, unfortunately for him and them, but is obviously a player that's been good in the league for a very long time, and who the Suns almost signed and traded DeAndre Ayton for in the summer of 2022. These are both stretch bigs, both vets, everything we've heard the Suns are pursuing this summer. Now, getting them is probably the part that is more interesting. So, where are you at with these two options in terms of like realistically gettable and who fits and all the stuff, the actual practical things of getting this done, not just, yeah, both those sound good.
Yeah, way to take the words right out of my mouth. Miles Turner is sure awesome. You know what, man? I got another report for you. Sources tell me the Suns are interested in Nikola Jokic. Like, yeah, you can be interested in Miles Turner. And heck, I'd even pay Miles Turner. We kind of talked about this briefly before the show started, but what are you going to give up for Miles Turner? The Pacers just made the finals and they're just going to be like, yeah, so we'll take, let's just say they do the KD deal. We'll take Wiggins and whoever, and then do like a sign and trade for Miles Turner or whatever. Like you can't even sign the guy outright. So
and
it's
we
crazy.
should say, because exactly, he's about to be a free agent. I didn't mention that. So, whereas Porzingis is under contract for this upcoming season, and that's it. He's expiring at $31 million. Turner's going to be a free agent. And I understand, right? Because with Turner, there's nobody with cap space unless he wants to go to Brooklyn and, play pick and roll with Cam Thomas after making the conference finals and the finals for the only team he's ever played for. Like that's irrational. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So if he's going to change teams, he's going to have to participate in a sign and trade, and Indiana's going to get something back for him. And if you were at Miles Turner's agent, for instance, you would be thinking pretty hard about how do I drum up a market when there's no literal market in free agency, right? So I get that all this is happening, and I totally see why, the Suns would be a team linked. They need a center. I've said that they should go after a floor spacer first and foremost, and he is that. But yeah, they don't have, it's already far-fetched, the people talking about Jaren Jackson as a guy, and he doesn't even seem like he's going to be available now that we've seen some post-Desmond Bane trade reporting. If that's crazy for a team that is kind of resetting in Memphis, it's even more insane for a team that's in the finals to get rid of their center and send him to Phoenix. For what? For Jalen Green?
Jalen Green and a 2030 first round pick.
Yeah, it's goofy. It doesn't really stack up. So let's get to the one that does stack up much more understandably, which is Kristaps Porzingis. And I got to say, off the top, I need to know what the hell happened to him physically this past season. They haven't really ever given a full, explanation, which, HIPAA and everything else, I get it. They're going to be careful. It's if too specific information gets out, that can be kind of messy. But if he has recovered, if it was long COVID, if it was some other kind of weird, long-lasting viral thing, then hopefully he's just better from it by October, you would hope, and he can just be just injury prone, which is already bad enough, but not always sick and out of breath and fatigued. At that price, if it's still just regular old Porzingis who's dominant when healthy and probably is only going to play 50 or so games, and he's only under contract for one season, and then you get to maybe pay him a little less, I don't know. I kind of like the idea if you can make the trade happen.
Yeah, in his 10 seasons in the NBA, if he were to have done, if the 65 game rule would have been a thing since he started being in the NBA, he would have been eligible 3 times. The dude is never healthy. But what I like about Kristaps Porzingis is the floor spacer. Decent. I think he's a decent defender as well. And he's someone that we just haven't seen Kevin Durant, Devin Booker play with in his career. So I would absolutely do that. The thing that makes him so interesting is Boston is so willing to get rid of money. That could be someone that, if you get Jalen Green, you could move over maybe to Boston in some form or fashion or whatever, make up the money somehow. Andrew Wiggins, whatever it looks like, right? To bring Kristaps Porzingis here. So it's much more tangible, and I don't think it's going to cost you anything. I legitimately just think it's going to cost you a second-round pick. I don't think it's going to cost anything because Boston's willing to shed that much money, and I think he'd be great with Booker. So if you could get Kristaps here, if you can get over the fact that he's going to play 50 games-ish, then yeah, absolutely. Perfect guy for the Suns to go get. Miles Turner, though, just crazy town. But I don't think it's absurd at all. It almost feels like Robert Williams a few years ago, where it's obviously different players, defensive mastermind, but he's probably not going to play more than 45, 50 games a year.
This one feels like it might have to be a trade that includes 3 teams because there's just not a trade. I mean, the Suns can't make a trade for him. And because Boston is up against it, they, 17 million Grayson Allen, that's not working. The Suns don't have anybody who makes exactly 30 or so million. They just have a bunch of cheap guys and 3 max guys. And then maybe somebody that they get back, like Jalen Green, okay, that he makes 33, that fits, but he's not. Boston doesn't want him. He also makes more money this year than Boston. That doesn't cut salary for them. So that, does he go to Brooklyn and then maybe the Suns get Porzingis and then Boston gets the salary relief? Like, that's kind of what it would probably have to be like. But I see this as a backup plan for the Suns potentially, where maybe it becomes a 4th team in the KD trade. Maybe later in the offseason, if they don't have any takers on Porzingis, the Suns try to figure out a way to make something happen. That kind of thing. But I think the draft and the Durant trade are probably the first 2 paths toward getting a big, and this would be kind of a fallback, would be my take. Because you can't count on him. Even if he's a fit and you can get him for cheap, you're back to Nick Richards starting 40 games for you potentially.
I think though that this might be where the Suns are at right now, taking chances on guys while you're not trying to compete.
Play out that way.
Yeah, it's kind of where I lean. But I would welcome Kristaps here with open arms because I think I would have right expectations for him. 50 games a year, but he's gonna be pretty good when he does it. And hopefully the dude's healthy because that was so weird.
Very weird. That'll wrap us up. Hit follow or subscribe if you have not already. We will be with you all week as the KD trade heats up. We'll get you something as soon as we possibly can when the buzzer sounds on that deal. Enjoy your Tuesday. We'll catch you next time.